Good afternoon. We're delighted to welcome you to our fourth Engaged Research Seminar brought to you by UCD Research. Today, we're focusing on knowledge valorization and specifically knowledge valorization through citizen engagement. The European Union aims to maximize the social and economic value of research and innovation in Europe. Sharing knowledge and improving uptake of research and innovation results by society is a key part of the Commission's proposal to revitalise the European research area. We are delighted to have Iphi Pottaki from the Valorisation Policies Unit of the European Commission's Directorate General for Research and Innovation here with us today. Iphi has been involved with and authored many of the Commission's guidance, codes of practice, and resources on citizen engagement for knowledge valorisation. We are delighted she can join us today to give us an overview on the rapid growth of knowledge valorisation through citizen engagement in Europe and how we can align with EU policies here in UCD. So, Iphi, over to you now, and I think you're going to share a few slides with us for the next 20-30 minutes, and we'll probably have a little bit of time after that then to go into questions. So, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Liam, and I'm very, very happy to be joining you online. I would be even happier if I was in Dublin, but I think this is a really, really very nice opportunity
Great.
to be able to talk to you a little bit about our work on citizen engagement for knowledge valorization. And mainly I want to share a little bit my talk in three parts. The first is to give you a little bit of context. So what do we mean when we talk about knowledge valorization? What do we mean when we talk about citizen engagement? Why is this important? And a couple of examples just to illustrate what this is about. And then I'm going to spend a little bit more time talking about the code of practice on citizen engagement, which I think is the main also element of my talk. And I would also like to discuss with you on the recommendations which are included there. And finally, I'll just give you a couple of initiatives that we are running now and where maybe the researchers from the university would like to engage. So just some a couple of things which we are doing now, and you could be informed and participating. So, as you said, I am working in this unit in the Directorate General of Research and Innovation of the European Commission, which is dealing with valorization policies and intellectual property rights. We can start the presentation, Emma, please. I can do it myself. Okay, okay. So thank you very much. So the first part, a little bit about the context. Next slide, please. Okay, so what is knowledge valorization? Knowledge valorization is the process of creating social and economic value from knowledge, and doing this by linking different areas and sectors, and by transforming data, know-how, and research results into sustainable products, services, solutions, and knowledge-based policies that benefit society. It's a little bit of a long definition, but please stay in this. But it's very useful because knowledge valorization is a little bit of a new term that we have been using mainly in the last 5 years, and it goes beyond what we were talking before about dissemination and exploitation of research results. So it is really about the transfer of research results to market and society, and it's really about the impact that research can have on our lives. Let's go to the next slide, please. So now as Liam said, this talk is about citizen engagement for knowledge valorization. And citizen engagement is one of the channels of knowledge valorization. So knowledge valorization we see, for example, through industry academia collaboration. We see it through the management of intellectual property rights, standardization, and so on. And one of the ways that we see how to strengthen knowledge valorization is through engaging citizens. So citizen engagement refers not only to engaging individual citizens, but also groups of citizens, civil society organizations, communities, and so on, with other research and innovation actors. But we come from a very specific perspective to the citizen engagement, which is not citizen engagement for any kind of designing policy, collecting data as we do with citizen science and so on, but really about knowledge valorization. So citizen engagement to bring research results as new solutions to society. So this is a little bit of a difference from other approaches of citizen engagement. We know that to engage citizens is very important in any part of European policy or public policy, in fact. But in our case, we are looking at it from the perspective of how is it best to engage citizens in order to bring research results to society, so to have uptake of new innovative solutions. And one of the ways to do that is through co-creation with citizens. So by engaging citizens in a way that they co-develop new innovative solutions which draw on research results together with researchers, together with industry, together with other stakeholders. Knowledge valorization itself is a process that involves many stakeholders, and it is transdisciplinary. So different sectors, different types of actors, and different, let's say, disciplines in terms of research results. So the role of citizens in knowledge valorization to uptake research results, how? On the one hand, through commercialization and market uptake. On the other hand, through societal uptake. It can be about informing policymakers and helping us create better policies. And finally, it's about raising awareness, cultivating skills, and developing new models, which can be organizational models, which can be behavioral change, and so on. Next slide, please, Emma. Okay, so this is a little bit some examples of what we have been doing to, first of all, create like an evidence base. So how do we see citizen engagement in knowledge valorization? So one thing we wanted to do is to study and to collect examples, best practices, evidence, and then to carry out some analysis to see actually where are the forms of citizen engagement, which ones work best, and then to build on that in order to also develop the code that I'm going to talk about in the next part. So developing and testing tools, building an evidence-based, collecting and sharing best practices, and also putting forward new initiatives. So for example, we tested the model of hackathons with citizens in a small scale. We made a study to collect best practices, how the arts and the cultural institutions also engage citizens and draw on research and innovation to create new solutions. And finally, we also did a study on how citizen engagement fosters knowledge valorization. which is very interesting because it collects about 60 case studies from 37 countries, from Europe, but also outside of Europe. And it finds out what are the key elements for successful valorization of knowledge with citizens engagement, but also what are the challenges, what are the obstacles, and so on. So it is also looking at some further issues, such as the question of evaluation and the question of what kind of metrics and KPIs do we need in order to assess when citizen engagement is most effective to valorize knowledge. So I'll give you maybe next slide. So as I said, there are 60 very, very nice examples in this study about how citizen engagement works. And I just chose two of them. The one is a project that involves Italy and Sweden. And it's very interesting because in this project, Mosaic, the citizens are engaged in defining the issues. It's about urban mobility and air quality. But what is really interesting there is that the cities committed to implementing the solutions. And this is very important because sometimes we have citizens engaged in the action, but also important for us is that the solutions which are created through this process are taken up by the market, by society, and so on. Otherwise, it's a citizen engagement process, but it doesn't lead to knowledge valorization. So the other project, actually, I chose it because it's also Ireland which is involved in this, and I think it's Trinity College Dublin, and it is a project about to help elderly populations and the aging problem, and to create a platform engaging many, many stakeholders. So this is a really good example of multi-stakeholder engagement. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of ideas what we mean by knowledge valorization, and also some sources where you can also look to find more examples, uh, uh, because it's one of the ways that we want to raise awareness is actually by sharing examples, practices, and what is really happening in society. So the next part of my talk is now going to focus on the code. Next slide, please. So the code of practice on citizen engagement is an action which follows the Council recommendation of the guiding principles for knowledge valorization. So the Council recommendation, which also includes the definition on knowledge valorization, which I showed you in the very beginning, is a milestone in knowledge valorization policy because it creates a common approach among the member states, and it gives some common principles about knowledge valorization in Europe. So following this council recommendation, the Commission adopted 4 codes of practice, which are documents which aim to provide more targeted guidance to stakeholders how to implement the guiding principles, but also giving some more practical advice. And one of these codes of practice is the code of practice on citizen engagement for knowledge valorization. So the objective clearly is to provide recommendations how to build and manage an enabling environment with participatory practices, and how to create solutions better matching to citizens' needs. Next slide, please. So the code of practice on citizen engagement, uh, I think is very important also for 2 reasons. The one is that citizen engagement, as you know, is sometimes a one-off. So citizens are engaged in one project, the project finishes, then it's over. And this code of practice is trying to go beyond that and to say that citizen engagement should be a standard and a continuous process when we are dealing with research and bringing research results to benefit society. And the second point is that it asks for organizations to develop and to promote a citizen engagement strategy. So organizations like universities, but also other organizations which are involved in the R&I ecosystem. And again, this means a more sustainable action. There is a third important, of course, impact, which is giving very practical advice to practitioners who are designing citizen engagement actions and implementing citizen engagement actions, how to choose, for example, between different methods, what to take into account, what are the challenges, and so on. So the first part is about building an enabling environment. And this is more at the organizational level. So as I said before, the first and important recommendation is to promote a citizen engagement strategy. So basically to develop in every organization a citizen engagement strategy. And then a lot of this first part is about what exactly a citizen engagement strategy should contain. So it should include impact pathways, it should include a roadmap for value creation, uh, promote synergies, and also develop skills and skills in engagement and participatory processes. Um, the second is about collaboration, and as I said from the beginning, this is a standard element of knowledge valorization, that it is about the interaction, the collaboration of many different actors and from many different sectors and domains. It is about ensuring social inclusion, about promoting the replication and scalability of citizen engagement actions. So the idea here is that we can learn from citizen engagement actions in one place and replicate them in another, but we also need to have the appropriate toolkits, guidelines, and so on for this. And very important is also the role of intermediaries. The next point is about awareness, and this is really about how we need to have to have campaigns and training also at organizational level, but also we need to recognize the efforts for engagement of different of all actors who are engaged, including the citizens, for example, with rewards, with prizes, and with other recognition schemes. And the final part of this effort to create an enabling environment is about the need to develop an evaluation framework. This is also very, very important because in order to assess the efficacy of citizen engagement actions, we need to have the appropriate indicators, appropriate metrics, and so on. And of course, this is a very big challenge when we are talking also about societal impact. So next slide, please. Now, the second part of the code is more focused on the more practical advice, let's say, for practitioners who are designing citizen engagement actions, but also for researchers and so on. So the practical, let's say, pieces of advice are about defining and communicating the incentives of different actors from the beginning. So one of the important challenges in citizen engagement is to have a clear understanding of what the incentives of all the actors are and what are their expectations, and also to be able to manage them in a realistic way. So the incentives, for example, of citizens might be different from the incentives of researchers, but also here we have the incentive of industrial partners and so on. The second point is about the need to take account of the possibility that the energy levels, let's say, through the action fall. So it's important to keep the impetus throughout the engagement process, not to start very high with very high energy, very high expectations, and then to go down. And of course, how to do this. The third point is about how to choose what is the right method, what is the right mix of methods usually, rather than a single method, for the implementation of your action. So for example, hackathons, deliberative platforms, living labs, how to choose. The fourth one is about communication. It's very, very important to have a communication strategy, and this is from the beginning, but also until also the need for feedback. And finally, is the role of digital technologies. So digital technologies are a very important enabler of creating scaled up actions with citizen engagement. They can help engage people from different regions. And for example, this is what I'm going to explain in the next bit in the European Citizens Hackathon that we are doing, where we bring together citizens from different regions in one action, which would not have happened without the digital technologies. Okay, so next part, please. Okay, so this is now I have done the main parts of my talk, of what I wanted to talk to you about. So these are just a couple of examples that I wanted to bring up because they are currently open for proposals, for registrations. Next slide, please. Okay, so the first one is a very interesting topic, which is now open for proposals. Sorry, not now, on the 15th of May, but okay, next week. So this is a topic which is about experimentation and exchange of good practices for value creation. So one of the ways to valorize knowledge is to have more experimentation, to test new things, and to learn from good practices that have been done elsewhere. And the idea of this topic is that proposals can choose either to experiment with new initiatives, or to choose to transfer existing best practices. So best practices, for example, a number of them are in the knowledge valorization platform. I will show you later. But also good practices for knowledge valorization that are in one country and could be transferred to another. Next slide, please, and the final one. And the final one is, as I said at the very beginning, one thing we did a couple of years ago was to test the model of the hackathon as a model where it can be used for knowledge valorization with citizen engagement. Uh, and after this experience, we are now scaling this up to have hackathons in 22 host organizations, so which are in covering all European countries and associated countries. And the idea for this is that citizens come with their problem, they get to work together with researchers in teams, in the local hackathons, let's say. And then from every local hackathon, there are 2 winning teams that after they win, they go through a training program and a coaching program. So they learn more about entrepreneurship, about, valorization, especially important for the citizens. And after that, they compete at the final European level hackathon, which will take place in October, and where the jury members will be in Brussels, but the teams who will be competing will be all over Europe. So what makes this even more interesting is that it's also for solutions for climate. So the hackathon is also supporting the objectives of 2 of the European missions, the mission of adaptation to climate change and the mission of climate neutral and smart cities. So the idea is now to have registrations from researchers who are uh, in this field, but not only in this field. So researchers who have experience with a broad range of issues, and also citizens who come and bring their challenge in order to start the whole process. And in fact, in Ireland, there are 2 host organizations. If I go here, maybe it can work. No, it can. Okay, I don't know if it will work. But there are 2 host organizations, and I think that the uh, Irish hackathon is taking place next month. But really, if you go to this link, you can see the publication of the hackathon that is hosted in Ireland. So I think that this is more or less what I wanted to say, and I would be happy to focus on any part uh, of what I covered that you would like to know more about, and to answer any question. I would also be very interested to know how you are thinking of implementing the code of practice on citizen engagement. How you see the challenges from the point of view of a university, but also the researchers. And yes, any feedback that you can also give us about how you see this, how you think you can implement it, and maybe also what would you need in order to implement it more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Effie, for that really insightful presentation into knowledge valorization. We have a few questions that people sent in before the presentation. So I might just go through those first, but I'd also like to invite everybody to add any questions that they have into using the Q&A button at the bottom of their screen. And we will answer as many of those as we have time for. Okay, so just to start, and the question that we sometimes get is, people wonder what the difference between knowledge valorization and research impact is. Are they one and the same, or is there a subtle difference between them?
So I can't give you a very official, definition on this, but I would say that impact can be also very long term. It can be something that we need to measure many years down the line. And knowledge valorization can have an acceleration aspect. Knowledge valorization is really about, let's say, for example, if you do a hackathon, you have the prototypes. After the hackathon, you can have a very fast acceleration network, for example, to develop them and then to bring them to the market. So knowledge valorization is really about this process of bringing together the different stakeholders, the researchers, the industry, the citizens, the policymakers, and bringing the research results to the market to society or to inform policymakers for better policy. Now, I think the impact does all of that, but I think this is the knowledge valorization part. It can happen very fast, and it's very much about the process, which of course has an impact. And as I said, this is one of the issues we are looking at, how to measure what kind of metrics we need for this.
Maybe just a related question then on the evaluation and the measures that people might use. Can you think, or do you have any insights into developments in the area of measuring an institutional valorization and the knowledge valorization that comes from the research that an institution does? Because I think a lot of the times people see this as very much a project-based activity, but is there a way of kind of neatly summing it up for an institution?
I think this is a very, very important question, and we are really looking at the answer. So maybe we need to come back to this in a year or so. I know that we are now starting to plan a study on the question of metrics. The citizen engagement study that I mentioned also looked at what could be possible KPIs, but again, as you said, more at a project level. So I think you really need to help us also here, because this is a really difficult question, and I think especially when it comes to the societal impact.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'll just maybe move on to some of the questions that are coming in from the audience. And the first one that I see there is, does the new code apply to all EU-funded projects, or is it directed at a specific or the new specific scheme?
Yeah, well, the code is not obligatory. It's not something that we are forcing all the projects who receive funding from the European Union to implement. The code is more like a tool for the stakeholders, for the universities. It's something that is out there for you to use on a voluntary basis in order to promote your knowledge valorization strategies. So, in fact, I can say that the way that these codes were created, it was not a commission, process, top-down process, but in fact, what we did is we created a community of practice where we invited any stakeholder with an interest to participate. And this community worked for about 6 months, had meetings every month, and they are the ones who provided the main elements for what later became a commission document. So we took these elements and we just shaped them. We consulted with other services as we have to do and then at the end it was adopted, but it really draws all its main ideas from universities, representatives, simple citizens. It was a very diverse community. And I think a lot of the beauty of this work was also that it was actually engaging the stakeholders to create this code for engagement.
Another question coming in, and an anonymous attendee is wondering if you have any examples about how knowledge valorization can work for projects in the humanities.
In the humanities,
Mm.
uh, I don't see why it is different in the humanities. I mean, as I said, also we did these studies which also have a lot of examples how to do knowledge valorization in different fields, including the arts, the cultural institutions, and so on. But I don't see anything different from in the humanities because um, I mean, of course, there is no technology if that is the issue, but knowledge valorization does not only refer to technological innovations, but also to non-technological innovations and social innovations. So I would see a very big role for social sciences and humanities to actually, for example, on the question of informing policymakers. The results of humanities and social science research in informing better policies. That could be one thing, but it can also be an input to innovative solutions in any other field.
Okay. I have a question from Alison Connolly, and she'd like to know if it would be good to identify the differing factors between stakeholder engagement and knowledge valorization. So are there kind of key differences between the two?
Yeah, so stakeholder engagement is one of the characteristics of knowledge valorization. So knowledge valorization is not just, the researcher without the engaging different actors. Okay, so it's research, industry, as I said, policymakers, citizens, not necessarily all at the same time. But citizen engagement doesn't have to, or stakeholder engagement doesn't have to lead to knowledge valorization. So you can engage the stakeholders, for example, to discuss a new policy, to have ideas, to be consulted. There are many ways of participation, but when the citizen engagement leads to actual uh, creation of innovative solutions, of new products, of new services, of new knowledge-based policies. And these are transferred to the real world, to the market, to society, to the policymakers. When this happens, then it is knowledge valorization.
Question concerns the scope of knowledge valorization. So is knowledge valorization always achieved locally, or can there be an international context for it as well?
Well, for example, the hackathon that I just explained is a European contest. So, of course, knowledge valorization is not only a local issue. I think that it is important that when we talk, for example, about policy making, knowledge valorization can inform policymakers not only at the governmental level or at the European level, but also at the city level, at the community level. So it is a very multi-level, process.
Yeah, and we have a question from P.J. Matthews, and he asks that apart from hackathons, do you have any other models for citizen and engagement and co-creation?
Yes, of course. And these are some of the examples that are also in the code. So, I mean, we talk about living labs. We talk about platforms. We talk about focus groups. There are many different ways to engage citizens, and some of them are more effective depending on what kind of knowledge valorization, what is the challenge that you are addressing, and who with. I just talked more about hackathons because it's an area that we've done a lot of initiatives, but obviously, there are creative hubs, there are a lot of methods, and this is actually one of the challenges, how to choose the more appropriate method and mechanism, or how to combine different mechanisms. This was one of the things we discussed very much in the development of the code of practice, uh, that there are very many different approaches, and one needs to look which is the best, or how to bring together different ones and to mix them. And one of the things we thought also could be very valuable is how to share the knowledge about this. How, when you try a new methodology or a mixed methodology and you learn something, how do you pass this knowledge to other people who are looking for that? And what kind of repositories or sharing mechanisms we need?
Yeah, absolutely. And PJ, also as a kind of a follow-up question, was just wondering if you could speak a little bit more about the potential or the role of arts and culture in citizen engagement and how that can work on the ground.
Yeah, okay. So what we saw with the study that we did was that many times institutions like museums, like libraries, they play a very, very important role in bringing the citizens of the community and in creating interest, not only in science but in knowledge in the broad sense, because knowledge valorization is not only about scientific knowledge, it's about knowledge in the broader sense, including thesis knowledge, including you know so the role of the arts and cultural institutions is very important in this sense for bringing citizens in this environment. But of course there might be many more aspects of how the arts and cultural institutions link to knowledge valorization. I think that this was just a start of thinking, how they work with citizens, but I think there are many other ways that we need to explore.
Yeah. A related question to what we had earlier about the code itself, and do you see the code becoming the norm? And if so, how?
Uh, okay, what I would really like to see is to, as I said, to not have citizens coming in a project, then the project is finished, and then that's it, and there is no continuity of that. What I would like to see is that maybe the code helps to create a culture of engaging with citizens in a more sustainable way and gives some tools and some guidance how to do it, because I think what we saw with the development of this code was that many people were looking how to do it and they didn't have to start from zero. They needed some guidance, to see what others have learned and and how to do it effectively with some proper, let's say, knowledge. What are the risks, what are the things I need to take care of, and so on.
Also on the kind of stream of funding, should ERC funded projects now try to add knowledge valorization elements and move beyond basic research, or do you see the landscape not changing in that regard?
Sorry, I didn't understand the question. Can you repeat?
Yeah, should the ERC funded projects now begin to add knowledge valorization elements into their projects and proposals as well as basic research?
I really cannot answer this question
Okay,
because
okay.
it's beyond my.
We'll say no comment.
I think that knowledge valorization is is for all. It's from basic knowledge to the most applied knowledge. So that's all I can say.
Okay, yeah, so I think we only have about 5 minutes left. So if anybody maybe just wants to add or ask one or more questions, now is a good time to do it. I think we have another one actually from earlier on that we had, and this is really concerning, um, the use of digital technology and digital actions and how to achieve its full potential for valorization. How do you see people using technology really to make this work?
I think this is a very big question, and we only touched upon some elements of this in the development of the code, because we really saw digital technologies more as a tool, to bring together people. But of course, it can be a lot more than that, because the digital technologies you use are learning themselves, and we have artificial intelligence. So there is a lot of space to explore beyond how digital technologies can connect people, which was the main element we have really included as a tool. It is in itself a very big topic, and again, one that we are starting to look at. What are the different ways that also artificial intelligence, machine learning can help to scale up and to strengthen knowledge valorization.
Great. Yep. So thank you. Thanks very much, Iphi, for joining us today. And thanks very much also to Emma Doris for organizing the seminar. I think we've come to a natural end at this point. Emma will send out the links to the resources mentioned during Iphi's presentation later on. And many thanks for everybody then for actually joining us today as well. So for resources on engaged research and public involvement, please have a look at the UCD research portal and also UCD's PPI website. So have a great afternoon, and we hope to see you all at the next engaged research seminar in autumn. So thanks again.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.